So I give you my old friend and the president of Development Systems International, Stefanie Stark.
Thank you, Jimmy. Those were very kind words. Now, there are 3 phases in the model. In the planning phase, that is 6 months of work. In the building phase, there is 6 months of work. And in the inviting phase, there is 6 months of work. Remember, though, the work of the planning and the building phase happen concurrently, not in a linear fashion. But the mechanics of this model will take a total of 18 months. And I'm really going to encourage each of you, as I said yesterday, it bears repeating. I'm going to encourage you not to rush through the planning stage. Chapter 1, Management Philosophy. Management philosophy identifies that you may have been very focused in your organization on technique-driven fundraising. That is the glow runs, the a-thons, the mud runs, the ice bucket challenge, the galas, the art auctions, the wine tastings, all of the technique-driven types of fundraising. But I understands that there is a law of diminishing returns on technique-driven fundraising. You will find within your organization, as you're trying to go from event to event, you simply do not have the infrastructure to manage all of these small $25, $50 donors. With 1,000 people, do you have the infrastructure to properly thank those donors, to steward those small gifts, and to then begin to put on another event? You're not event planners. You are there because you are passionate about the mission of your organization. It also understands that if you are institution driven, it's all about you, not the donor, and it hasn't worked for the last 45 years. But being donor driven in your approach to fundraising does produce the highest return on investment. Chapter 2, we decide that we are going to focus on major gifts fundraising. This is where you're going to decide to drive a bulldozer through your calendar in order to prioritize donors, not programs, but donors, as their need to see the change they hope to see in their community is fulfilled through you and your organization. We are going to prioritize the acquisition of cash in order to build financial capacity, scale the mission of your nonprofit. We're not just going to serve a problem, we're going to solve a problem. Major Gifts fundraising does require everyone in the organization to get on the same page so you are rowing in the same direction. And Major Gifts fundraising begins with you, the CEO, and it begins with you, the development officer. Don't go to your board of directors and your staff and say, well, here's what you guys need to do differently. It has to start with you, the strong CEO, saying, I am now going to delegate some responsibilities when it comes to staff meetings, when it comes to putting out fires, I don't need to put out because someone else can handle it. When it comes to answering emails, you don't need to answer. When it comes to writing reports, you don't need to write. You, strong CEO, have decided that you are going to reprioritize your time so that you can have a portfolio of approximately 50 major gift donors you are going to spend your time with. And your development officer, if you have a development officer in your organization, should have a portfolio of approximately 125 donor prospects they are cultivating and stewarding. We are going to do something different within our organization in order to scale the mission. Chapter 3, Organizational Development. Organizational development looks at your as-is state. What are the strengths and the weaknesses of your organization? It looks at, are you understaffed? And I know 90% of you on this call, your nonprofit is understaffed. They're not only understaffed, they are underpaid. And we like to have this piety around money and say to our staff, well, I know you could get this in the for-profit sector with your degrees, but we're a nonprofit. So don't expect to be paid market value for your work. And don't expect health insurance or a 401k plan because we're a nonprofit. And by the way, there's no such thing as a 40-hour work week here. No, we're going to ask you to work 60 and 70 hours because we're understaffed. You're going to have to take on a lot of job responsibilities that you never agreed to. Those days are gone. In organizational development, we are going to look at the as-is state of the organization and the to-be state, and what is the change management that needs to occur in order for your organization to run with those same free market principles that the for-profit sector is applying. It also is going to look at what is it going to cost, not only to pay yourself and your staff a living wage, and to pay them market value, but also what is it going to cost overall for your operations over 3 years? What is it really going to cost for that building project and establishing endowment or growing an endowment so that you have reserves for the future? You can address anything that comes up in the future financially and keep your doors open. We're going to count the cost. We're also going to count the cost about not servicing but solving a problem. What is it going to take to serve all of the families in your service footprint, or to serve all of the veterans, or whatever the cause is? What is it going to cost to serve them for everyone who says yes? That is organizational development. Chapter 4, Case for Support. Case for support becomes the refining fire, because as we go through organizational development, we are now going to reflect all of that in case for support. Case for support provides the donor with an opportunity to invest. It is an 8 to 12 page document. It's a 30,000-foot view of your organization. It addresses your history and the history of impact you have had. And if you are a brand new startup 501c3, you still have a history because there was some moment where you identified the need in your community that led you to launch your 501c3 and your nonprofit organization. Case for Support also has testimonies of lives changed. It has the projects. What are the new projects that you are going to launch and embark upon in order to better serve the community? And it has a corresponding budget. We also talk about testing case for support. Remember, if you want advice, ask for money. If you want money, ask for advice. Once you have landed your first draft of case for support, you're going to go out and meet with the first set of donor prospects and key stakeholders in the community to ask for their advice. Jack and Jan, we wouldn't think of launching this campaign without getting your feedback and your input. When you ask for advice, you're inviting the donor to better understand the mission and the impact and what growth is needed, and then invite them to become more engaged, not only in participating in those programs, but also funding those programs and projects. Case, 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 case. If you get everything else wrong in this model, but you get case right, you're still going to be well on your way to raising the monies you require. Also in Chapter 4, you notice where we have campaign leadership there. Remember, we have different versions of the model. There's the Buick version, the Cadillac version, and the Rolls-Royce version. If you're a brand new startup, you're going to take the Buick version of the model. You're going to need to go through all 12 chapters in order to reach campaign goal. Our mid-size organizations are probably going to be able to do that Cadillac version, where if they at least go through the non-fundraising awareness event, they can go ahead and seat their campaign cabinet. The Rolls-Royce version says we are a well-heeled nonprofit with 30, 40, 50 years of history. We have 2,000 or more donors, active donors in our database. And right after landing case for support, we can go ahead and seat our campaign cabinet of champions who are going to help us raise all of the monies we require. Chapter 5, Advancement Calendar. The advancement calendar is the task map for those 18 months. Remember, if you're driving from North Carolina to California, you're going to need a map to get there. And it is going to involve twists and turns, peaks, low points, challenges, and celebration all along the way. But the advancement calendar is actually the very first thing we do. We want you to spend a day, spend 4 or 5 hours with your team wrestling with the calendar. The first thing you're going to do is put everything on the calendar that you know is coming up for the organization over those 18 months. It will be board meetings, it will be conferences, it will be retreats, it will include your 4 weeks of vacation. Everything that is a non-negotiable that you know is upcoming for the organization goes on the calendar. And then we overlay that with all of the tasks that need to be accomplished in order to achieve campaign success. So we go 18 months out into the future. We circle in red on our wall calendar. Remember, we're asking you to purchase 6 90-day at-a-glance dry erase wall calendars. And we want you with that dry erase marker in red, go 18 months out in the future, circle campaign completion. And then go backwards through the calendar. And we're going to put everything on there from when invitations need to be mailed. When is our awareness event? When is our signature ask event? When are we going to have the campaign cabinet seated by? When are we going to line up all of the vendors, the caterer and the photographer and the special speakers for each of those 2 events that we're going to be putting on? After you've completed and wrestled with the calendar for a day, you're going to put all of that into a written Word document, which will become your written fundraising plan. You're going to share that with your staff and with your board members. And for the first time, everyone's going to be on the same page, rowing in the same direction, and it's going to make the Major Gifts campaign make sense for probably the first time. If we don't have a plan, we're planning to fail. So each month in January, we're going to see all of the tasks, all of the deadlines that need to be completed in January, and the same for February and March and so on throughout the calendar year. Advancement calendar is your roadmap to success. Chapter 6 is prospect identification. We are going to ask you to compile 3 different lists to give you approximately 2,500 donor prospects. Those 3 lists consist of first your append file or your upload file. You are going to upload all of the donors and volunteers, friends of your organization. They're all going to be uploaded and well screened in DonorScope. The second list is the community file. Now, this is probably the most tedious part of the entire Major Gifts ramp-up model. And if you have a staff intern, college intern, administrative assistant, this is where they could really help you. We're going to ask you to go and look online at the hospital foundation. Who's on the board of the hospital foundation? Who's on the board of the college foundation? Who is on the board of United Way? And other philanthropic boards, because guess what? The people who serve on those boards are known community philanthropists. We want to add them to the list. The third list is going to be your DonorScope download list. Remember, DonorScope is a platform where we have worked with Experian to be able to put in your zip code, search a radius, or search just by zip codes to identify the millionaire wealth set in your community. You're going to download that file of millionaires. You're then going to compile all three lists, taking out any duplicates, and you now have approximately 2,500 millionaires to invite to your Chapter 7 non-fundraising awareness event. When we invite our 2,500 people to the non-fundraising awareness event, they are going to receive a romantic invitation to a lunch on a Thursday from 11:30 to 1. On the invitation, we're going to have 50 host committee listed. As a reminder, the host committee are made up of philanthropists and influencers in your community. The bank president, CEOs, other company presidents, entrepreneurs, judges, lawyers, doctors, civic leaders like the mayor, the city commissioners, the county commissioners, religious leaders like pastors and rabbis, every mover and shaker. And don't forget the socialites. They are very important. They go on your host committee as well. You'll have a special featured speaker or an award ceremony. When your 2,500 people receive those invitations, you should expect approximately 10% to reply to RSVP to your event. Most will say yes, some will say no. No, I'm not available that day at lunch from 11:30 to 1. At the non-fundraising event, when guests come because they received that great invitation and they said, I don't know who this organization is exactly, and I'm not sure what this lunch is, though the invitation does say it's not a fundraising event, but I don't want to miss that. That day at the non-fundraising awareness luncheon, guests will come in, they'll register, they'll get a name tag. We'll take them over to the photo area. We'll take a photo, which is building your donor profile, but we're also going to mail them the photo with a handwritten thank you note. They'll be then escorted to get their box lunch or something simple like lasagna and salad or Panera bread sandwiches. Then escorted to their table, they'll have water and iced tea to choose from, or water and coffee. During the event, the first half of the event is for the head. Remember, it's head, heart, science, and art. First part of the event will have compelling speakers, and your CEO will present the case for support. Then the second half is the heart of the event, where we share testimonies of lives changed. And after the event, everyone gets out of the room because we end the event at 12:58, not 1:05, not 1:15, not 1:30, 12:58. We close the event with one ask. Friends, if you have heard anything here today that resonates with you, with your personal goals for your family, for your community, for your business, we look forward to meeting with you personally. And when our team calls you in the coming weeks, will you take our call? And everyone says yes. And then we release them and they go on their way with joy and say, I'm so glad I didn't miss that. Chapter 8, Prospect Cultivation. Prospect cultivation is 6 months of work. We have now earned the right to ask, and we will make the longest 18 inches reach in the world to pick up the phone. Emails don't count. And we will be reaching out to each of our guests who attended the luncheon. We will invite them to meet us for coffee or breakfast at their office or at your office, or for lunch or for dinner. But we need to go meet face to face and better understand their philanthropic goals, their goals for the community. We're going to be testing case for support and listening our way to the gift. When appropriate, some donors are ready to make a major gift at that point. Others will need more time for cultivation. So we ask a couple of interim asks. Jack and Jan, thank you so much for attending the luncheon. We we're going to be having a signature ask event in a few months. We thought you might like to be a table host and invite 3 couples or 6 individuals to fill a table of 8. Here's the good news, Jack and Jan. We're not selling tickets. We're not selling tables, but we just know in order to have a successful campaign, we need all of the right people coming together to better understand our mission and our work and what our plans are for the future. And Jack and Jan are more than happy to bring their colleagues and neighbors and friends to your non-fundraising awareness event. Also in prospect cultivation, we will be asking, who else should we be talking to? Who else should we be going to test case for support with? And you'll just find time and time again, people are more than happy to say, you've got to call Bob over at the bank. You know, they have an initiative there that I really think they're going to want to hear the work that you're doing because it aligns with a project that they're trying to accomplish that they want to fund. Call Bob and say, I told you to call Bob. So prospect cultivation is the most important work. This is also the work where if you don't put your foot on the gas pedal, the model could break down. We must go meet in person with our guests. When our guests agree to be table hosts, we are going to fill a room with approximately 25 or more table hosts for an evening event that we call the Signature Ask Event, Chapter 9. This is going to be an evening event on a Thursday from 6:30 to 8:30. If you had your awareness event in the spring, your Signature Ask event will be in the fall. If you had your awareness event in the fall, your signature ask event will be in the spring. So awareness event is at the 6-month mark approximately, signature ask event at the 12-month mark. Programmatically, the signature ask event is very similar to the awareness event. We're going to have a compelling featured guest speaker. We're going to have the CEO present case for support. We're going to have testimonies of lives changed. We also will have a donor who will get up and share, I give to this organization because, and you should too. The night of the signature ask event, we will make an ask at the end of the program. We'll walk everyone through the commitment card, focusing on that $5,000 gift. Remember, if all of your 200 guests commit $5,000 to the campaign, you have $1 million toward the campaign. We're going to tell the guests after they complete their pledge cards, their commitment cards, to fold them over. Now, we're not going to call out any names, but we are going to do a live tally, and volunteers come around and they pick up, collect all of the commitment cards, they bring them to the stage, and our co-MCs will read out the amounts. $500, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, and then we will announce the total. Everyone celebrates. There are no gimmicks to this event. There's no auction. There's no live band. I'm telling you, every time I have been to one of our signature ask events and MC the event, people come up to me afterward and say, this is the best fundraiser I have ever attended. And we didn't spend the time or the money to do anything extra. We simply shared the mission of the organization, compelling case for support, stories of lives changed, and everyone got to come together, give, and then we celebrate what the group accomplished together that night. Now, raising money at a signature ask event, you should expect to raise $300,000, $700,000, over $1 million in one night, but we still haven't done major guest fundraising. Chapter 10, campaign leadership. Either just before or just after our signature ask event, we are going to seat our campaign cabinet. The campaign cabinet is made up of these champions who will have emerged over the first 12 months. These are veteran philanthropists who have given their best gift to the campaign and who agree to take responsibility for 4 to 6 relationships Now, remember, we're going to be sharing with our campaign cabinet made up of about 12 to 15 people. We're going to be sharing with them a list of 300 to 400 donor prospects who we have already been cultivating over the first 12 months. And they're going to look at that list and say, I'll take Jack and Jan. And another campaign member will say, well, I'll take Mary and Bill. And they will divide this up, each take responsibility for 4, 5, or 6 relationships, and they will go as a calling partner. They will use peer-to-peer fundraising to make major gift asks. The first thing that our campaign cabinet will do once they've reviewed the list is go into Chapter 11, campaign interviews. They are going to reach out to those friends and ask for a meeting over coffee, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and better understand our donor prospects' goals. We come with a written proposal, a gift request. We come with a written gift agreement. We come with other collateral materials like our case for support document. And we say, Jack and Jan, thank you so much for your $10,000 gift at our signature ask event. We thought you would want to pledge that gift for 3 years to operations for a total of $30,000. And Jack and Jan, we're building the new community center. We thought you might want to participate with a $500,000 gift to name the new dining hall. And Jack and Jan, not today, but in the coming weeks, we'd like to have a conversation with you because we know that you want to leave a legacy in this community. We'd like to come back and have a conversation about how your estate plan can play a role in our campaign. And when we make 90 asks and get 40 gifts using our campaign cabinet, using the 3-part ask, that leads us to campaign success.